Hey, everybody. Did you know that 70% of people say that text messaging is the fastest way to reach them? That's just one fact that we found from this year's State of Texting report. And so here we're just going to take a few minutes and run through Text Request 2024 State of Business Texting report. What are we doing here? What was the goal? We wanted to conduct some research to see, particularly for the business text messaging market, what's happening today. Wanted to get a pulse on that. I want to see where things are heading in the next 12 months, and we'll make some predictions here for you that I think are going to be pretty interesting. And then, what are the biggest opportunities and challenges? So, what is going to help you make more money, and what might be in the way of you making more money? We'll go through all of that. Real quick, who are we? Text Request is a business text messaging platform. Basically, what we do is we add text messaging to your office phone number so that you can text from your computer or any other device and actually get responses from your customers. I'm Kenneth. I'm our VP of marketing. I've been here about 9 years now. And so it's been pretty fun to watch trends change and evolve over time and just to see how things are different today, than they were 9 years ago. Why business texting? So one thing that we found through this research is that so many of our survey respondents began telling us why texting was so valuable for them. And these are the top three things that we found or we heard over and over again. And so, number one was that by texting as a business, you can stop repeating tasks. Particularly, you can stop calling and emailing people when they don't respond. People respond very quickly to text. They tend to respond uh, reliably to text messages. And so, whenever you can just get a respond and move on, that keeps you from doing things repetitively. And it also allows you to get just so much more work done. So, a lot of people said, and I quote, they could get 2 times as much work done at least, which was really interesting to see. And then number three, never miss an update. So a lot of times businesses, you need to connect with your employees, you need to connect with your customers. Sometimes it's last minute and you need to get an update out there. And texting is a way to make sure that everybody sees your message immediately. If you compare that to phone calls or emails, calls are going to get missed. Emails might take hours before they're seen, if they're seen at all. But text is much more reliable in this context. So from all of the findings we had in this report, we just want to cover our top three takeaways to start with, and you'll see we've kind of categorized things into groups of three. If you do want to see everything from the report, it is linked in the comments or wherever we are sharing this, as well as the slide deck. So first, the top use case that we found, this is what most businesses are texting for, is they're texting for customer service. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. I'm a little biased in my view as a marketer. I think oftentimes text is just a distribution channel for a message that you want to put out there. But what we are really seeing from businesses is that they're using text to replace day-to-day conversations. And that could be about anything. That could be for appointment scheduling. It could be things about their account. It could be about letters they got in the mail or questions they have about billing. It covers the gamut. But most businesses now have just turned from using phone calls for all of their conversations to having a lot of their conversations through text. And I think that's a pretty interesting shift. Our top opportunity for the year, we think, is to earn online reviews through text. In most cases, particularly to earn Google reviews through text messaging. And so it's pretty interesting, we think, is that one, texting is now ubiquitous for just about any interaction you want. But not that many companies, relatively speaking, are texting to earn online reviews. So it's a medium that consumers are already really familiar with. Even most businesses are familiar with texting now. And then we know that online reviews are really important because if you get more Google reviews, you're going to rank higher in Google searches. More customers are going to find your business. They're going to be more likely to work with you. They'll even be more likely to pay more for your services, which I think is really interesting. And so right now we're in this sweet spot sort of where people are really familiar with texting, but it's not so saturated that you texting customers for a review is going to just fall on deaf ears. So I think a big opportunity for this year for 2024, to text for online reviews. Send it after you service a customer, just share a review link, ask them to follow it, give a quick star rating, leave their thoughts. And if you do that consistently, you're going to see a lot more revenue opportunities come in. The top challenge for the year, we thought this was really interesting because it was also the top challenge we saw last year. And between seeing this on both reports and then looking across the board at, challenges across all types of companies at all situations, not just with texting, but with any tactic or strategy or even budgeting. There seems to be a disconnect between what people are doing and how they're measuring it, or whether they're measuring it at all. And so we wanted to highlight that there are a few good ways that you can track how you're using text messaging to steadily improve what you're doing here, and to also communicate that to your employees, because often the person setting the pace for what processes you're going to follow or how you're going to communicate with your customers is not the person who's actually doing it every day. And so we think it's good to communicate that as well across the board. And so if you are texting, or if you are considering starting texting as a business, there's a few things here we think are good for you to pay attention to. One, time saved. Are you able to replace phone calls with text messages and save a few minutes a day, a few hours, whatever the number is? That's something to consider tracking. Revenue earned is another one I'll highlight. Are you able to send promotions that lead to more sales? Are you able to close more deals? Are you able to keep more appointments? That's another metric you can track. And then, does it just make your life easier? A lot of times things are options, or the difference between a couple options is kind of a toss up. It's more of a preference. Do I enjoy this more or that more? And so, is texting with customers as opposed to emailing or calling them or sharing direct mail flyers with them, or whatever it is that you're doing, is texting easier? Does it make your life easier? Does it reduce any stress for you or your team? So keep these things in mind. I think it's important to track metrics and then to share that with your employees as well, so that they can continue to improve and feel like they're more a part of the whole of the company's goal and mission and what you're going after. All right, so those were the top 3 things that we found from the report. We want to cover a little bit more, some things that we just found interesting that we think you'll want to pay attention to as well, maybe even implement. So number 1 is appointment scheduling. I think everybody would be happier if they never got another phone call about appointments. If you're a business and you rely on appointments, I strongly encourage you to just text for confirmations and reminders, text for rescheduling if you need, text to fill last minute appointments if you happen to have last minute openings, and an overdue list. Most people aren't answering phone calls. The time that your business may be spending calling and leaving voicemails about these appointments is just going into the ether. Nobody's paying attention to it, is what we're finding. And so if you have the opportunity, just text instead. Your consumers are going to thank you for it, and that's going to show up on your bottom line. Texting for sales. This is one I think is really important, really crucial. In this context, we're really focused on sales teams. So not so much sending a mass promotion and hoping to increase purchases, but you've had a prospect come in through a lead form or whatever it is, and you have a sales rep who's trying to follow up to close that deal. This is a great opportunity to text, because you'll be able to just stand out and reach people so much faster. So you think about one of the most important things in sales is speed to lead. So how quickly are you able to follow up? And in our experience, what we're seeing is there's really not much of anything faster than a text. So that can help you beat the competition, get a meeting scheduled, follow up with people, get additional info for a contract or application, and really just move the ball forward so that you can close more deals, shrink your sales cycle, make more money, all with less effort. That's pretty powerful. And then sort of to synthesize other things that we've covered so far is if you are taking these steps, we're finding, I mean, all of this is reported, from our survey respondents. We're seeing that if you take these steps to text instead of phone calls, or to just uh, steadily streamline your operations and your processes, is that you're going to save a good amount of time. And I thought it was really interesting that this is a small percentage, but a significant percentage of 10% actually reported that they save 10 or more hours a week by replacing calls with text. And that could be individual messages, that could be mass messages. But imagine what you could do if you had an extra 10 hours a week. I mean, maybe you're a business owner and you just want to spend that time with your family. Maybe you're a business leader and that gives you time to actually focus on new ideas and initiatives. That's a pretty significant chunk of time. So I think that's worth highlighting. All right, let's get into a few predictions. This is kind of our last major section we want to go through. I have high hopes for 2024. We were pretty close on our predictions for 2023 after conducting a similar report. And so I feel pretty confident in what we're sharing here. One, we do think reviews or texting for reviews is going to become the norm. The of the people we surveyed, most of them wish they were texting for reviews, or I should say, texting for reviews is the number one use case they wish they saw within their company. Okay, and so texting is at a point where consumers get it, they're fine with it, they interact with text. They often want to leave feedback, or if you just ask them, they'll be encouraged to, they'll be happy to. And this is a very easy way to get that feedback, whether you need to use it for, you know, uh, confidential internal feedback, or you want to use it for Google reviews. This is just a great way to get that, and to stand out from your competition. So we're already seeing it trending that more and more companies are doing this, especially because review management as a category in general has gotten so much more popular over the last couple of years. And review management is basically just requesting and managing online reviews for your business. So we've seen that starting to blow up even more. Texting is a growing piece of that. We think that's going to become commonplace here shortly. The not so fun stuff, regulations are going to get a little bit more strict. Mobile carriers have been implementing these 10DLC regulations over the last couple of years anyway. And they're starting to crack down on them a little bit more. And it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just something that creates a couple more steps for any business to begin texting. And essentially what it is it's registering with, you go through a governing body called the campaign registry, but it's connecting to the mobile carriers to say that, hey, I am a legitimate business. I'm texting for legitimate reasons, and I'm texting people who have opted in and want to receive these messages from us. And so it's a couple extra steps to take, but there are some good benefits to it as well. One is it's verified sending. And so that way consumers know they're going to get messages they actually want to receive. The carriers know that you as a business are legitimate and they're going to give you increased delivery. So they'll allow you to send more messages faster and deliver a higher percentage of them. So that's important. Doesn't have much to do with the survey we actually did, but we see this as a standout, something to pay attention to. And if you do happen to work with text requests now or in the future, this is something we do automatically for you. It's included in every plan, so you don't have to worry about it. We just collect a little bit of info from you, and then we run with it for you. And then last, we think texting will become the default channel for more companies. We've seen it with some. I would say a significant minority of companies are now texting first instead of calling first or instead of emailing first. They're also encouraging customers to text them first rather than calling in or emailing in. And so, we've seen just in general, texting is more convenient. Consumers, after they've texted with the business once, that's where they tend to stay, is it in the text messaging channel. And we see more and more companies doing this. We think it will be much more prominent throughout this next year. We know phone calls still have a place. We aren't saying they don't. We know email still has a place. We aren't saying that doesn't. But we just think that or we see that most communications day to day for a company are, quick conversations that don't need or that don't warrant the formality or the time of a phone call, let's say. And so text is a perfectly fine channel for it. That's just more convenient for everybody to save some time. If you haven't already gotten on the train to start texting, I would encourage you to go ahead and do it. Right now, it's the best way to connect with your customers. It's the fastest way to connect, most convenient way. And I don't know that there's going to be too long of a period past this year where it's still such a good option that people respond to that's not overly saturated. So I would highly encourage you to start sooner rather than later. And then here for this last section, we have some more fun stats. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on any of these. These are just some questions we had that may affect you at your business or you may want to implement. But if you really want to dive into them, just pause this recording, take a little time on it, or look at the slide deck or full report that are linked in the comments or around here where we're sharing it. So who are businesses texting with? Most businesses are texting with their existing customers. We do think there's a big opportunity for sales if more businesses did follow up with leads. And then over time, we'll probably see more companies and organizations building actual subscriber lists. So this would be for, say, educational content, newsletters. It could be for webinar registrations or anything of that nature. We already talked about at the very beginning, most businesses are texting for customer service. And then you can see here, what businesses are choosing to text for. I think payments and collections is low. That's going to be interesting, and you'll see why in the next slide or two. So far, or currently, most businesses say that text messaging is the most effective channel for them to get a response from customers. So if you have to get an update from a customer before you can close a deal, before you can get an application submitted or sign a contract, especially if you just need something quick or you need to set a meeting, just default to text here. Most people read every text they get. That's not too surprising, but now we have some numbers for it. 70% of people, like I opened the recording with, 70% of people say texting is the fastest way to reach them. We kind of think the other 30% are lying, but it's not a big deal. Some people do respond quicker to a phone call because they know that you're only calling if it's an emergency. And all other non-emergency cases, text is going to be helpful. And actually, this is true across demographics, across age groups. So, some people will say, oh, I have an older generation that I serve, or I have, a super young generation, and, maybe it's a little different. But we see things are pretty consistent across age groups. All right, here's where I wanted to highlight payments again. So, only 32% of companies are texting for payments and collections, yet 63% of consumers want to receive text related to payments. So quick reminders, the option to pay online are really helpful to share through text. You can use text to pay where you can handle the entire transaction through SMS. But I thought that was a pretty interesting distinction where there's about a 30% gap between number of businesses who are texting for payments and the number of consumers who want to receive text for payments. So that's something I would say consider for this next year as well, is to begin texting for payments and reminders. If you have questions about text requests, if you want to learn more about us, you can just go to textrequest.com. You can book a demo there or see what the product looks like. We can help you with anything that we've covered in this report. If you are interested in seeing more of the report itself, again, we'll have the links here, share it in the comments or wherever we're sharing this. And if you have questions that you just want to ask us about directly, you can just send those to marketing@textrequest.com.